All right, what's up, YouTube? We are here with,
Peter Brown.
and what'd you do today?
I got first place at the Rivals Friday Championship Tournament. Actually, I'm proud of my whole boys because all four of us, so I've 4 people from my team that showed up today, and we got top 4 out of like 23 people or something like that.
Something like that.
My whole team got 4 of us. We all had top 4, so it was really nice. So, shout out to my boy Will. Will's been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for 3 weeks, and he got 3rd place today. He's cracked. And I got the monkey boy right here, and David's right here. He played Grand Maju, and then he summoned the 10,000 attack Grand Maju, and I conked it. So I played Zoodiac. By far, when you look at the ban list, one of the best decks that to look from. I think that there's a lot to talk about in terms of the different kinds of Eldlich, and I think that Zoodiac loses to the least amount of nonsense. I think historically, the problem with the other 2 versions are we call it Monkey Eldlich, which is like Inspector Border and Traps, and then Red Eyes Eldlich, which is Dragoon and Traps and then Eldlich. The problem with both those decks is in the Inspector Border version, you lose to nonsense like Lightning Storm, Evenly Matched, and Harpy's Feather Duster a lot more, and I think those are kind of more prevalent at this competitive level. And it's very frustrating to just kind of lose because your opponent feather sheet for 5, even though you had no choice but to set everything against a very strong deck. And then the problem with the Red Eyes Eldlich deck is that although Dragoon's really, really good, it's such a high variance card because basically 1 out of every 5 games you'll auto lose because you'll draw either Red Eyes or draw both Red Eyes and Dark Magician. And so, honestly, I decided to play a deck that focuses on Zeus. That's not as powerful overall. It's not as powerful as a card as Dragoon, but when you average out the amount of games that you play, it is on a similar power level. You just don't. This deck can play every game, and that's what matters. That's why I was able to go 4-0 because every single game I was able to play, even when I was down. So I played normal Eldlich engine. I did play one Black Awakening to get the Eldlich engine started faster. That's important against the Bird Up deck and against decks that get their stuff going quickly. So and Drytron as well. Although when I was building this deck, I kind of ignored Drytron, which kind of worked out in my favor because even though I did face a Drytron opponent, I was able to kind of overwhelm them because Ben 10-1 was a major difference for the deck. That a previously unfavorable matchup where Zeus did nothing, it now became more favorable because Ben 10-1 and Unitary Bands really made it easier. So normal engine, 3 of all of them. 3 Hawk, I guess maybe you can play 2. I played the 3rd one because the deck's a bit grindier. And it's also nice to have the extra Black Awakening to have extra Eldlich cards. So I've had more success with a thicker Eldlich engine, but this deck's amazing. I'm surprised they didn't limit either Sanguine or Elband, but whatever they're doing.
I was surprised too.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if it's any consolation though, this is one of the fairest meta decks because it doesn't stop your opponent from playing. The difference between this deck and like Dragon Link is Dragon Link summons a bunch of negates, Bird Up summons the Wind Statue, Drytron summons Ultimate Knight's 4 negates. This deck doesn't do that. It's just Yu-Gi-Oh, and it has traps. And so, yes, they didn't hit it, but out of all the decks they could have chosen not to hit, I'm fine with this one being stayed. So, Zoo Engine, Tenki, Raj. This Zoo lineup: 1 Blade, 1 Whip, Ram, Bunny, Rat. Typically, I thought historically this card was not very good because of Ogre and Gamma, but those cards are not as prevalent. Ogre is very ass right now. No one's really playing it. And so I've become to like this card a lot more because you can Rat for Bunny, and then you end on Dryden Bunny because of Chakanine. And that's a much better play to have because you have the Dryden, and if they kill the Bunny Blast, you're going to be able to have a play for next turn. But otherwise, just normal. Nothing too interesting there. Everything else left in the deck is tech cards because this is the engine. That's how I build decks. You do engine, and you do tech. 3 Ash, still one of the most versatile hand traps. 3 Bell. I thought there'd be a lot of Eldlich. Did not end up not facing any, but I also thought that people would be aware of Eldlich, so they'd be playing cards like DD Crow and Ice Dragon's Prison. This card came up a lot against my Bird Up opponent because that deck searches DD Crow, and so being able to have this for that DD Crow was able to keep me in the tournament, so that was really nice. 3 Lancia. This is the one I struggle the most about putting in. I actually don't like this card very much because I don't like to use cards that don't give you card advantage. Because this card is up to apply a condition to the game state, and that doesn't help you because your opponent can just pass and then you technically go deck one. But Burn Up was something I was particularly worried about. I thought that the Wind Statue is really hard because there's no wind cards in this deck, and so being able to curve it as much as possible, they can still play through it, but it's much harder. Playing this would have been been pretty good. Otherwise, it's fine against Eldlich, but I was mainly worried about Burnup and just its general versatility. So, and Dino. It's hard to really against Dino because they can never summon Tyranno without banishing. Your Prosperity is the best card ever printed. We couldn't play Extravagance or Desires before because Desire sucks in Eldlich, and Extravagance doesn't work well with Zeus, and so this card would fit it perfectly into this deck. And then I played 3 Droplet because I was particularly concerned about Dragoon. Dragoon deck's not historically strong against that deck because it seems like when I play Dragoon, I always draw Dragoons from Red Eyes, and they never do, and I'm always against their Dragoon, so it's just kind of annoying. And I played this card that should get banned. It should get banned, therefore it's in my deck. So, also, just a general note. Order was almost in here, but there was no room for it. Maybe I could have swapped Black Awakening, but it didn't matter. If there was one more space, I would have put Order. Because Prosperity, it's really, really strong with power 1-ups, because you can fish from them. There are game states where my opponent has a bunch of sets where Prosperity for 6 with a specific intention of looking for a power 1-up. And it's fine in general because with decks like cards like Order, even if it's in your deck going second, you Prosperity, and if Order comes up, just don't take it. It's very simple. So power 1-ups are kind of a new deck building concept. That's like has historically not been prevalent in Yu-Gi-Oh because you don't consistently see them. But this card changes the game on that, so that's good. This card should be 150. Yeah, this card should be 100. But this card's cheap, so
Yes.
Normal Zeus. Nothing to see here. Vespernato is the one that revives things and can make a random Chakanine or random Tuckamore actually do something. Best card in the deck, probably. My guy. I love Asa. Shout out to Ryan Levine. Some people ask me still why I still play this card even though nobody plays all the decks. You just take a Link Spider and any guy to make this, and that way your opponent has to kill it eventually, and then when they do, you switch to Zeus. That way you have access to Zeus. Out Floodgates, and then Vampire Sucker. I picked this over the BLS Link. This card comes up a lot more because being able to draw on both turns, especially when your opponent is playing an Eldlich deck, is pretty good. I found that coming up a lot more often than the BLS Link. The BLS Link is still pretty good though. It's just that if you're able to summon a Lord and 2 guys, even if one of them summons Chakanine, definitely you're already winning at that point. So this card just keeps you going. So I guess some of the more interesting stuff is the side deck. 4 Kaijus because I really didn't want to lose to Dragoon. And I thought it would be good against other decks like Drytron in the capacity that it was. Again, I'm not really sure where Drytron goes at this point. I don't know much about it. Drytron is a deck, I only know how to face it, not really play it. In terms of this, I thought this should be generally pretty powerful, but it's mostly just Dragoon. Dragoon is very prevalent at this local, so being able to just remove the Dragoon and then just being able to play is really fine. I thought a lot about this card because I thought that with Virtual World changing pretty fundamentally, this card's not as good against it because they usually go Shen Chuche Pass, which is not as applicable against the Beer. This card is not very good against Bird Up because they can summon up close through the main combo. It is good against Dragon Link though. I guess I don't know much about the new Dragon Link deck itself, but I do know that it struggles historically with Nibiru based on the cards that have been banned with Link Cross, and it's hard for them to establish for Lapalooza. So Nibiru it's good against decks that I don't know much about, and that I probably have no unbearable matchup against because there's so too many games. So it was good. The Cosmic is respecting a lot of Eldlich. Very happy about that. I Strike Prison out to Dragoon as well. It works in Bird Up to out the Wind Statue or some more, and a lot of Eldlich. So obviously Eldlich was very much on my mind when making this deck list, and this is also a really good variant against other Eldlich decks because even if they have Dragoon, you can just make Zeus pass it. And then 2 power 1-ups. This card is Degenerate. I don't know why. This card is still the one of baffles me. So yeah, you Prosperity for 6 and Surgery. And Red Reboot. Red Reboot is good against trap decks like Eldlich. You might think like, oh, like why would you let them get another trap? They'll just set Order or set something insane. But in this deck, this card allows Zeus to resolve basically every time. There's like nothing they can do in order to prevent Zeus from coming down when you Red Reboot them. So if they set a trap, it doesn't matter. It's going to get sent to the graveyard anyway. And in fact, in an Eldlich mirror match, sometimes I've seen players, maybe more inexperienced players, set Eldlich spells and traps like a Sand or a Conch, and then because they think they're going to be able to use it, I Zeus it away, and then I further ahead in the resource game, especially since I have the Black Awakening in the third hawk. So I'm further around in these resource games. This card is really good in any deck that can play Zeus because it just ensures that it comes out. So that's the deck. I like Eldlich. I played it Bernini yesterday, and then I'm all two deck. So pretty good. Any questions? No. I think.
No, just any shout outs you want to throw out there?
Shoutouts to boys, Zero. What up? Joel Monero is not here. He's always at work. Shout out to Sean, of course. I think we're anyone else? Swole Joel is my guy. That guy's never around. Yeah. So, but yeah. So, see you next time.
All right. See you.